Hi everyone, it's Shelle from Shoutout Crochet. Welcome to my December 2024 crochet podcast. I hope everyone's had a wonderful Christmas, and let's get into some crochet whips and finished objects. Hi everyone, it's Shelle. How are you today? I hope you're all doing well, and Happy New Year! Almost, right? I hope this video will be out on New Year's Eve, so you may be seeing this in early January. I hope everyone has had a great holiday season. If you've been under the weather, I hope you're feeling better and that January brings a wonderful fresh start for everyone. So December has been interesting. It just kind of flew by, and some crochet did happen. It's going to be mostly clips because I really don't have very many of the things that I finished at all with me anymore. And the first two things we're going to talk about are blankets. So let's get into some clips.
Hello everyone. Today is Tuesday, December the 4th, and I thought I would take a clip of a couple of things that I've been up to. So this is a Christmas blanket that I made 2 Christmases ago, I think. So this is going to be Christmas 2024. Yeah, that makes sense. So my mom gifted me 3 cakes of burlap blanket ombre yarn. I decided I wanted it wider. I'd never put a border on this blanket, and the burlap blanket ombre is actually discontinued. But Mary Maxim was having some interesting deals on blanket yarn in certain colors and certain versions over the course of the Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I think Cyber Monday was the better deal in terms of what you had to hit to get free shipping. And I had a bunch of stuff in my cart, and I promptly talked myself out of it. And I made use of this, well, 2 things actually. I had some Ogos that had this very dark charcoal in it. So I went around the entire blanket with a single crochet round in the charcoal. And then I had this variegated. So here you can see how it's a very silvery gray and then darker. And let me find another part of the border. And there you can see how it's the darker tones. So the border kind of undulates throughout the blanket in colors. And I made use of this $3 large skein that Chris had found randomly on clearance at Walmart in the summertime. So I thought it was an excellent use of yarn I already had. The 2 Ogos I got were $5 each. They had gold, salmon, and then the dark charcoal gray. And so for the most part, the charcoal gray is gone. And I'm very, very happy that my blanket is now a good, I would say, 5 to 6 inches wider than it was before. So really overall, the blanket has grown in width more than it's grown in length. But I have a nice couch blanket, Christmas-esque, but this one can stay out past Christmas because it's got so much gray in it, and the cranberry and the teal allow for that as well. So pretty happy with that. Now let's have a peek at what's underneath. I had said I wanted to work on my granny square blanket, and I am working on my granny square blanket. So I got a couple of squares done, and I'm on my 3rd, and I pulled out the scale, and I know I have enough of this yarn left to make 1 more, so I will get 3 out of my coral color there. Salmon-y coral color. I guess more coral, right? It's a lighter color. It's blowing out on camera. It's not as orange as it looks. It's more muted than it looks. And then I have this mint green going in next. That one's going to be super tight. So if I really, really pull on my tension, I can get 2, but it would more comfortably be only 1 square. So they are weighing 34 grams. So I was super happy that I have 35 grams right there, and I can get 1 more square out of that. This one's just here, so I made sure that I was matching up. I have to go down 2 hook sizes, so I used a 6.5 for the normal yarn, and for this Caron 1 pound, I have to go down to a 5.5 for the same size measurement. And I'm going to experiment with the Loops and Threads Soft Classic because it's thicker as well. Not quite as dense as the Caron 1 pound, but similar. So I'm going to see which hook size works better for that mint green color as well. And then I have to get to putting some borders on those as well. So that's pretty much what I've been up to so far in December, and I'm looking forward to Friday because it will be the final square of the calendar blanket. And then I think there's going to be a joining party on the weekend, a live joining party, which will be great too. And then waiting for the border and see what Jayda's border is going to be. so I can get that wrapped up as well. I'm going to be doing a lot of blankets for the month of December to get those whips finished up and off to Project Linus. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. Good morning, everybody. Today is Wednesday, December the 11th, and my Granny's Magical Cupboard 2024 calendar blanket from Jayda InStitches is done. As of right now, she has not released the border yet. So seeing as you can see my border, we might as well talk about that first. I just went back to regular granny stitch. I thought it was appropriate given we're doing a Granny's Magical Cupboard, a granny square blanket. So 2 rounds of granny stitch and 1 round of single crochet is what I did. So I made my stitch count workout that I could accomplish that, which took a lot of counting, but it was fine. I also will point out that once I joined them in rows of 7, I put on a round of granny stitch then to each individual panel of 7. So there's 4 panels of 7 because this blanket is 4 by 7. So it got all this extra right in here. And I was able to accomplish that with the Hosta colorway. I have some pictures that I'll put up because I did weigh my remnants of yarn. I found out I was not going to have enough Hosta to get around the blanket. And that is because I did use it for a couple of squares mid-project, which I wish I had not done. For example, this one is finished in it, I believe. It's hard to tell the difference between this color that was in the cake and Hosta. You can only really tell if they're beside each other. So when I look at this square and then this square, I don't always know right away. But anyway, this one, the mitered one, was finished in that Caron 1 pound. And this one is part of the cake as it came out of the cake, which was a Caron Big Cake Blue Hawaiian, which I believe is long discontinued. Just scanning up so you can see some more of the color. So yeah, we did this here, and it was really neat how it looks when you go back to get into the granny stitch and then you join it. So just a bit of a refresher of how I did my squares. Each square is as it came out of the cake or has some of my secondary color, which was a Caron 1 pound in Hosta on it. So when I finished my 6 rounds of regular stitch, whatever the stitch Jayda had picked for that month was, then I did a round of single crochet. And I was using a 7mm hook, and I had an 8-inch square that way. So I had to go up several hook sizes to get gauge that matches Jayda's gauge, and I ended up with a nice size square at the end. So my squares were 8 inches with a single crochet round on them. Then I did a half double crochet round in the joining color, which was this Caron 1 pound in Hosta. I had hoped to finish the blanket in that, and I did not because I ran out of yarn, and you'll see that more in a second. But I just wanted to go back and refresh the sizing of all the squares and to talk about how I am joining. So I whip stitched all of these together, but because they were joined with half doubles, there's even more texture than there normally is when you use the inside loop and the outside loop of the corresponding squares. So that was kind of cool. I liked how that looked. So they were in strips of 7, and then they got a border round, if you want to think of it that way. Then I crocheted them together. So the 4 strips got single crochet together. So there's texture on the back, which I like. And then we have our squares. So we have mitered, which I did in place of the November square. And we have the Jacob's Ladder square. We have the mesh square. We have the solid meets V. Now this blanket has not been blocked. It has been in the dryer to relax it before the border went on. But that's all so far. This square is the one I feel would have benefited much from individual blocking, because this was the one that went a little narrow. So this part did not want to stretch square against the straight. So that was very interesting. But in the grand scheme of things, a kid is going to be enjoying this blanket for many years to come, so I don't think it matters too much. And then what do we have here? This one is just a V-stitch square. And for my extra squares I needed, I opted to do either straight granny, which most of them are straight granny, and then I did this one V-stitch square where I started with a straight granny and ended with a straight granny, but there's V-stitch in between. Here's another straight granny I did. This one's the mesh one. And then if we go up a little higher, what will we find? We have a bauble here. Now this bauble is done in the joining color, and I wish I had not done that because it took up a lot of yarn. But oh well. Also, the Caron 1 pounds, they tend to work up chunkier, and I didn't hook down to size my hook on that, and I definitely should have. but you can definitely see the baubles on that guy. This is the stacked shell. And then this is my favorite square. Now, most people's, sorry I have to move it around so much. Most people's will look very different because this is the one where Jayda was doing all of the color changes with. But I opted to do it as the yarn came out of the cake, which I did for all of my squares. And so this is basically a regular granny square, but instead of chaining in between, you're doing a 3 stitches together in between. And look how nice and flat and like, I mean, texture wise, yes, but look how nice and filled in it is. So I'm thinking that this might be a very good blanket and or baby blanket stitch because of it, you know, not having the holes. Like I know even for Project Linus, they say a lot they don't like having the holes, especially for the really tiny ones. So I will definitely be using that stitch again. I think that was my favorite one for the entire blanket. What else can I find? Here's the bean stitch right here, bean and V's. So that one worked out fairly well. So here's another one. This one is solid and granny stitch, which I really like that one as well. Here's solid. So I did solid in place of the Irish Rose square, which was June. And I did make the Irish Rose square, but I just made one. And I had a daisy, so I made a daisy as well. I think I'll pop up pictures here for you. And I'm turning that into a little gift bag. There's the other Jacob's Ladder square, just so you can see how different it looks in a different color from the cake. There, so I stopped moving it around. This is one of my regular grannies. So I added a bunch of regular grannies in order to get my count up to 28 squares, which is what I needed to do a 4x7 blanket. So that's why those are there. What else do we have here? Here's one of the whirly squares. You can barely tell, but they're there. I think the more color changes you have, the better that one probably shows. Here's the other bauble square in the other color. It just it looks a little different when it's in a lighter color like that. I think the yarn is not as dense, so that as well. I have to find spiked squares because I did those. Where are they? And there's the spiked granny. There's another one somewhere. Oh, it's right over here. There it is. And my other whirly square. So basically, I'm gonna get some pictures of it all laid out when it's been blocked. I'm gonna get Chris to put it back in the dryer a second time, or we're gonna give it an old college try. I don't think I'm gonna do any more blocking than that. This is gonna go to a child, so I'm not too worried about that part. Most of it is lying pretty well. And so the squares that I omitted were June. So June I did not put into this blanket, although I did make it. And in place of June, I did the solid granny square. And then November, with the one with all the extra double crochets over the mesh pattern, I did not opt to put that one in here either. That was more of a yarn choice, but that I just was not gravitating towards that pattern, so I did not even work it up. And I put the mitered squares, which was an idea someone had on the Facebook group, which I thought was great. And I was able to use that in here. And then for the extra, for the December square for the bean and V, I only made one. So instead of making a second one of those, I made a V-stitch granny, which I showed you already. And then for all the extra squares I needed to get to 28, which was 4, I did 4 regular granny squares. So that's how it all worked out. And it's done. And it's my first blanket in December that's officially ready for Project Linus. I'm 3/4 of the way there on my solid granny square blanket. And then the one I'll be working on at the end of the month will be my mile a minute. Back to our regularly scheduled programming.
The only thing I would change about the crochet along blanket is I would not have added the single crochet round or the joining rounded half double crochet. I would have just left the squares the way they were, waited for everything to work itself out, and then decided what I wanted to do if I needed them to be any bigger. Because I was very conscious of the fact that I wasn't getting gauge to her gauge. So rather than worry so much about that, I should have just left it the way it was and decided later what to do. It would have given me a little bit more yarn that were in my cakes back, and it would have definitely given me more yarn that I was intending to be able to finish the blanket with. Now, it was a happy accident that I couldn't finish the blanket with that yarn because I really, really like the extra loops and threads yarn I pulled out for the border, it really just brought out some of the other shades in that cake, and it tied the whole blanket together. So I'm very happy with the overall outcome, but I still like the fact that I've taught myself not to jump forward. I can just do something the way it's intended to be done and then wait and decide a little later how I want to finish it. To me, it was about kind of working ahead, and I didn't necessarily need to work ahead. I had lots of time to get that blanket finished. It was done early in December. So anyway, that's just a little bit of learning from that project.
Good morning, everybody. Today is Monday, December 16th. I hope everybody has been having a wonderful December so far and feeling very festive. We actually had the family over on the weekend for a little Christmas party. This is my current palette cleanser. I found a partial skein of the Red Heart All-in-One Granny Square in the colorway Hot Stuff when I was doing a little bit of yarn room office organization and tidy up. And I have a whole bunch of all-in-one squares already prepared in a variety of quantities. There's some in the frigid, the amethyst, the pink punch, the citrus twist, and now this one. They're all the ones that end in the white, pre-made, just because I've been working on them on and off over the course of 2024. So I figure I'll finish up this skein and see how many I have total at the end and think about another blanket. I don't think I want to go back around all of them in a border color. So we will see. I do have a little bit of white, but we will see, because I want to make sure I can hit my specs for another blanket for Project Linus. And this is a palette cleanser for my other blanket project that's going on right now. Let me get this out of the way, one sec. So this is what I've been up to over the last week or so. I finished up all my squares. I only had a few more to make, and then I've been working on bordering them all in that charcoal gray color. So it's kind of a black that they've heathered some white over, and that is a Mary Maxim Pound of Fun, they called it, although it is very similar to Bernat Cozy Style that I have made in the past. This is the original center row of 7 that I only have one of each of these colors, and I'm not going to unroll it right now. I will be putting a picture on the screen of my layout. That is just a mock-up I've done on a pixelated program where I could shade in the areas and the colors I have. These are the last 2 rows I need to join, and this is row 1 and row 2, and so the middle row is row 3. It's 5 rows, or 5 squares across and 7 squares down, so 5 rows. And yeah, so these ones are in order of me having to join them up. So I am whip stitching them together. And this blanket is 9+, so it was already 9 inches before the block went on, so I can remeasure it. But it's going to be plenty big enough on its own. I don't have to do anything extra to it once I have my rows together. So I'm just going to single crochet them together. My strategy for this one might be to do some granny stitch around each row to get it wider before I have to join it all up. But anyway, we're working on this one right now, and if I can get this done over the next day or 2, then I will be on to my mile a minute, and I will have finished all of my blanket whips, except this one that I didn't know I had. So we'll see how that goes for the rest of December. Back to our regularly scheduled programming.
So both of those Granny Square blankets were basically being made concurrently. I had already had a fair bit of work done on both, obviously. We're talking about the solid colored Granny Square blanket along with the Crochet Along for 2024 Granny's Magical Cupboard with Jayda InStitches. You know, they were at different sort of states. Super pleased to have both of them done. I had some interesting tricks popped up with, I liked how I ended up doing the extra border on the individual rows in the Jayda blanket, and I just really liked playing with all the colors I had in the solid Granny Square blanket and plotting them out in that pixelated program I like to use and getting to sew them together the way I wanted them to look. And both of those are great. And so while we're here talking about finished projects and scraps, because that Granny Square was mainly scraps, I showed you guys a cake I wound up that I am intending to do a C2C scrap blanket with. Instead of doing a magic ball, I decided to do a magic cake. Well, that cake, I think there's probably a picture here. You've seen it already anyway. And this little bag is what I have in terms of scraps remaining for 2024. So that is a huge win that I was able to put so many of my scraps to use in 2024. I'm super happy about that. And I'll just be able to move on to more stashed yarn that way. And I'm actually looking forward to having more scraps so that I can continue to make scrap projects, because I think that they turn out really beautifully and then are well loved with having all that color going on in them. So yay. And we'll see, maybe just start another cake right away. There's an awful lot of that royal blue, a fair bit of that neon green, but the others are little bits and bobs, and look forward to doing something with that really soon. All right, so let's talk about the other whip, which is a mile a minute blanket. I do have some clips here.
Good morning, everyone. Today is Sunday, December the 29th, and I am working on this guy today. So I have my layout all done here on my little pixelated program, and we actually have some progress on this guy. So a whole bunch of them have gotten their blacks. I just attached the red one yesterday, and now I have these ones in order so they can get thrown on there to give me some extra motivation. And I have one more already completed and 3 more to add black to, and then it will look like this.
I did make a mile a minute earlier in 2024. So I did have a whole bunch of these strips started, and a whole bunch of them got worked on throughout the year in terms of making the colors. And I just haven't been gravitating to this, and I've had problems with it. I've taken off 2 of the strips already because they weren't going on the way that I wanted them to go on. One of them was upside down, so that's one I took off most recently, and it's the spring green color. So we now have 3 attached again, even though I was working a little bit forward on this, but I have more done. So here's my spring green that's got to go back on. The yellow one has got the black, and then these guys were kind of ready to go in order, and I just wanted to, he's stuck. I'm not going to move that one right now. This one, and then there's a burgundy colored one. And I just kind of had them in order ready to be attached, because I thought if I attached a few more of them, it would feel like I was making progress on this. But then I realized that I had attached one upside down. So between the fact that there's the black, that it's so hard to see right and wrong side plus right side up, and for this type of stitch, to see if this is the right way or if this is the right way when you're working on it, it's just been a little bit frustrating. So I am going to persevere and get this put together, because it's the last blanket I want to get packed up. The rest of them are all in a box ready to go to Project Linus, and when this one can get added, I'm going to do a drop off. So that's why I didn't have the other ones out with me today. But there is progress happening here. It's just not as fast as I would like. I did opt to add one more color, and I'm almost done the strip in this creamy Aran color. And that is just going to brighten it up a little bit. So it's going to end up being 13 rows wide, and then it's 77 of the little shell, chain 2 shell, like a granny corner is that stitch lengthwise. And then you have your start and your top to square it out, and then you do your black border all the way around that. So it will make out the measurements fine for what Project Linus needs for the teen and tween category. So yay for that, and hopefully it'll be done soon, maybe even by the end of the week. It is Monday, December the 30th, as we're talking right now. So kind of a tale of woe, but I'll take some pictures and just throw them in to whenever I record a video again. So my mom gave me this tray, and I thought it was kind of festive to have it here for today's video. She also gave me this cake, and this is one thing that got made into a project right away. I figured, why not? So I made this hat on December 26th and 27th. And I just did the beanies I like to do, spiral beanie. I let the color, for the most part, come out of the cake the way it was. There was a couple of knots, so I took the opportunity to snip out the knots and then make the yarn do what it needed to do to just make it make sense. And I decided to have the red at the bottom and the red pom-pom on the top, and the pom-pom came with the hat. And so this is my first hat for charity, for 2025 charity, that was still made in 2024. It's an interesting yarn. It's super thick. I didn't really pay attention to the fact it was a 5-weight when I was working with it, because I had already gone up a hook size or so from the ball band. I used a 6.5 for the hat and a 6 for the post-stitch trim there. But I would definitely use bigger hooks than that for this yarn. It's definitely a nice, robust, chunky 5-weight yarn. So it was a nice little Christmas surprise from my mom. Oh yeah, and here's the remnants. This is all I had left of that cake, that cupcake. So here's a little bit of that red and then a tiny bit of pink and purple. So that is a good use of a cake. I'm gonna pop up some pictures here. There were some littles. I made a little tiny dress for this mouse. It's almost like a toy you would buy to put a lovey on, and I couldn't find exactly the type of mouse I wanted to get my mom, so I got her that, and I made her a little Christmas dress, so she looked like she was a bit of a Christmas mouse. And I'll see if I can get a picture of that. It's already been gifted, but I'll see if I can get a picture of that and throw it in at the end. And then I also made this. This was a spur of the moment decision. Jayda was doing ugly Christmas sweaters in her live, her last live of the year. And I didn't have any scrap yarn right by me, but I had red and green that I'd been using for Christmas stuff, even for just wrapping gifts and stuff like that. So I made a little ugly cute Christmas sweater for hubby on one of his gifts, and it's been on the tree ever since. And I just decided to put on the safety eyes that have the green around them, and then a little smile. And so it's cute ugly Christmas sweater, I guess. And it was a super quick fun make. And if you ever wanted any ornaments, you should go back and have a look at that live, because it was super fast to make it. I made it while she was doing it on the live, so that was fun. And it's something I hadn't planned to do, but I did it anyway. I said I might play with some sparkle yarn if I had time, just to have something that didn't really have a purpose, because a lot of what I was working on last year was either for Project Linus or for the Shoebox project charity. And this is just for the fact that I wanted to work with this yarn. So fun. I pulled apart a couple of different cakes. One is Red Heart Roll With It Sparkle in Amethyst, and the other one is Red Heart Roll With It Sparkle in Gray Whisper. And I thought that these would go well together. This is one of those triangular shallow shawls that I was making in the summertime. And I just decided it would be nice to end the year with a project that I was making that I got a lot of joy out of. And the sparkle is part of that joy, but so is the way that this is going to be all drapey and fun afterwards with all the colors. So we're going to go from the deepest of purple, almost looking a little bit bluish, to this piece here. Still, it's attached. Where is it? So it's coming out of the dark purple right now. And it's going to go through all of these blues it's going to go through all of these purples. You can see there, into this one here, and keep going. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that pink, but I'm definitely going to use the gray. So we'll see. I just decided it would be nice to blend the two. Similar tones, but just some fun going on when it's made. And I'm just going to work until it's big enough that I like the size of it. And then we'll go from there. There is 2 of each. So right now I've got 1 and 1 kind of on the go. And I pulled out one of the colors. I also have some that are just blue and white, different blue shades in white. So I'm not going to use the blue in this one at all. And the blue was part of the amethyst. So I'm going to set it aside with my other blues and see. So there's plenty of yarn. It's in this beautiful project bag that Pricilla made me. And yeah, this has been just a fun, when I get to it, I haven't had a lot of time on this yet, but it hopefully will get a little bit of love over New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And I'm using a 7mm hook on this one. Hey guys, I was sitting here packing everything up and I realized I forgot to talk about the emotional support chicken I made my sister. She's gotten to be super fond of the emotional support amigurumi concept. And so as part of a little Christmas gift for her, I made her this little chicken. Anyway, at least I had some pictures to show you and she was super happy with it. She got a big kick out of it. So that's it, signing off for real this time. So 2025, I think my word for 2025 is going to be wellness. I need to spend a little bit more time paying attention to the cues my body is giving me with regards to the arthritis and the crochet. And I have to figure out what that's going to mean for how I do videos. So I'm going to spend some time thinking about that. And also, I want to not buy yarn in 2025. I want to. This is not a thing of I shouldn't or or even a budgetary thing. It's just that I want to not buy any yarn in 2025. It's just something I want to do. I want to see what that does to my stash, my crochet. I just want to experiment with not buying any yarn this year. I got a little too attached to the Granny Square yarn last year, which led me to picking up some solid colors as well. And although they were a good deal, no. There's always a reason to buy yarn, because it's new, because it looks fun, because we love it and we all love it. But there's enough variety here that I need to just shift. And if I need a certain color for a certain thing, that thing is not going to get made. So that's going to be how I approach yarn in 2025. And I just want to see how it will be to do it that way. And for those of you that are going to buy lots of yarn and have lots of fun buying yarn, I'm still going to enjoy seeing it all. But I think that I'll feel different a year from now if I'm able to accomplish that goal. And I just wanted to take a moment to say thanks for hanging out with me. I really appreciate those of you that spend time with me on a monthly basis and talk about crochet. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I especially appreciate those of you who take the time to leave a comment and let me know what you're up to and communicate. And so put the social in social media, as we say. So continue to do that. I love it. And I hope you guys have a wonderful 2025, wonderful January. And in the meantime, happy crochet. Bye, everyone.